I want to just go through a quick opening. The purpose of the opening is to get everyone on the same page so you understand what it is that we're talking about today. As Dave mentioned, there's 75 organizations in the Atlanta area, the greater, say, North Georgia area, including TSYS, who's a little bit south of us, that deal in the world of financial technologies. Another way of saying that is payment processing. In other words, they're moving payments from point to point and making things happen for the merchants and for the consumers and the like. And we put together a great panel today representing a cross-section of all of those capabilities. I'm going to introduce them in a second, but to get ourselves kind of focused in the same direction, I do want to stop for a second, though, and thank the two primary sponsors for this particular seminar here today, Porter Keatle Moore and Habib Arighetti and Wynn. So they have, please, if you have a chance to see someone here, and there's various representatives in the audience, please thank them for their generous contribution. At FinTech, we created what was called the Wheel. This was actually developed by some people at Raymond James. We have one of Raymond James' key financial analysts here in the audience with us today, Wayne Johnson. He's sitting as far away as he could possibly get in the back. But so this particular wheel, I don't expect you to be able to read this on the slide, but at your seats is a brochure. And on the brochure is a listing of the organizations that represent FinTech. And so we took a look at this and he said, you know, we need to stand up and recognize that we, in fact, represent the Silicon Valley of payment processing, you know, around the world. How many transactions, in fact, are flowing through the North Georgia community through the various, organizations that are sitting with us today? If you go you'll see on that document there's a wheregeorgialeads.com. That's something that's been put together by TAG. It is interactive, so when you take your cursor and you take it across a name, it will pop up and tell you who they are and a little bit about them. You'll notice that some organizations have references there and others don't. So if your organization happens to be on that list and you're not represented, get to your marketing organization and have them connect with TAG and bring that together. So if you look at this as being the business side of the transaction processing world, look at this then as taking the wheel and then underneath it putting a technology platform. It's what the gentlemen, the technology executives sitting up before us today have to deal with day in and day out, which is how to move data, how to move information, how to collaborate with third parties, how to do, a lot of different things. So that's what we're going to focus on today. This particular diagram is a standard, out-of-the-box layered architecture. Some people will call it a service-oriented architecture, but you'll see that there's layers. Again, these executives have to pay attention to things like the business rules, the operational systems. All of these organizations are large enough that they have multiple data centers around the country and around the world. They need to move data around. Their IT infrastructure has to be excellent to be able to support this. And of course, the consumer expectations are very strong. So today's conversation is going to be looking at meeting the challenges of of building and maintaining these transaction platforms. We're going to start, and talk about legacy platforms and, the anchors that they represent and carrying them forward, looking at the cost structure of those, living within the many government regulations that exist today, whether it's, the Durbin Agreement or whether it's PCI compliance, whatever it may be. Embracing new technologies, whether it's through a mobile device where you're doing transactions on the mobile device, via the internet and the like. And I'd like to ask the panelists some of their vision that they're creating for their organizations of how these platforms are going to exist in some time out, where they're actually building some of these platforms around the world and the kind of service they're getting. And then balancing that technology vision, again, this is a technology focus, but with the business delivery model. In other words, the ability to bring a product, an instrument to the marketplace in a cost-effective way. And technology, of course, is an opportunity to do that. So with that, I would like to introduce our panel. We have Mark Pearson, who is the chief architect at SunTrust. Mark is sitting on the right-hand side, or left-hand side, sorry for you. John Reed with First Data. He's the senior vice president of the Enterprise Information Systems and the chief architect for First Data. Rajiv Roy, who's next. Rajiv is the president of the Technology and the Analytical Services Group of Equifax. And then finally, on the far right side, Olin Wise. Olin is the CIO of TSYS, as well as a group executive with responsibilities for IT strategy and IT delivery. My name is Don Campbell. I'm the president and CEO of Virtual Management Technologies. We are a managed hosting and managed services vendor here in the Atlanta area. We do a lot of support of organizations that are actually hosting their systems on our virtual platforms, our clouds, so to speak, and that's how we are involved in the world of financial technologies. Plus, I've spent many of my years in the software side of that world. So with that, I'd like to kind of do a reversed mode of this and ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their company.
As Don said, my name's Olin Wise. I'm with TSYS. Many of you are familiar with the company, but we're a payments processing company headquartered in Columbus, Georgia. Just to give you a sense of the business, we're about a $1.7 billion revenue company. A few fun facts, we processed approximately 12 billion transactions last year. It's a company of approximately 8,000 employees. We have locations across the globe, processed for about 300 various customers in multiple countries. We are segmented into 3 business units, essentially the North American issuing business, the international business, and then the merchant or acquiring services business. My role is actually I'm responsible for technology for that acquiring business. We support locations in Columbus, Tempe, Arizona, Sunnyvale, California, and Pune, India. So that's my role. I'm glad to be here today.
Rajiv?
Rajiv Roy. I am the president of Technology and Analytical Services Group in Equifax. My guess is most of you know what Equifax is. Many of you may not be happy with your credit report from Equifax. It's a nearly $2 billion company operating in 16 countries, about 6,500 employees. To give a snippet of data, like Olin did, we manage multi-petabytes of data per night. The amount of data we process per night can fill up 15 libraries of Congress. That might give you a perspective of the amount of data we deal with. What I do is slightly different from the core business of Equifax. I run, as you saw, the group called TAS. It's a separate business unit responsible for software and analytical products. I run the business unit, means it's not only developing the products, I also sell them in 14 different countries. My business is a total P&L of about $250 million. So that's the business I run. I personally, my background is running software and analytical companies for the last 20 years. Actually came out of Citibank, switched industries, went to supply chain for about 14 years, then switched back to the financial industry through the Equifax move. One small point of interest might be of interest to you. I just came back from India. I think you also came back from India. Unlike him, I might break into some Indian language when I'm too tired. So you might have to pardon me, although in most technology meetings like this, if I break into any Indian languages, chances are half the audience will at least understand me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I tried to get him to improve my credit score, but he wouldn't budge. So, I'm John Reed. I'm with First Data. First Data processes about 73 billion transactions a year. We're located in 33 countries. And we have 2 major business units, our merchant business and our financial services. And they're organized by our North America business unit, which handles both the FS and merchant business and our international side. And to that respect, we've organized our operations and technology group to support both of those business units as a service. So we're transforming our company as we speak. And in fact, we might be in another country any minute now. So I never know what the salespeople are going to sell. In our operations and technology unit, we have about 17,000 people, and they're responsible for technology, IT, as well as operations and service delivery for the company. Our company is about 24,000 people globally. One of the most, important things for operations and technology as a group is to bring forward a new perspective and drive innovation for the company. We truly consider that IT in First Data is part of our cost of goods sold and part of our product development initiative. And as such, we, and my role specifically, spend a lot of time working with our business product partners to look at the changing market and adapt and build technology-enabled products to support that. So I'll turn it over to Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Pearson, Chief Architect of SunTrust Banks Incorporated. You may know the retail bank here in Atlanta and throughout the Southeast. But we also have other subsidiaries that provide institutional investments in mortgage banking and equipment leasing. About $8 billion of revenue right now, 28,000 employees. In the IT and operations group, we have about 4,000 folks that work for the bank, and we also have a lot of folks that help us with business process outsourcing or that are offshored, and that probably includes another 3,000 or 4,000 people alone. We're very pleased that we have returned our loan to the federal government and paid back TARP. I think it's an indication that maybe things are beginning to turn a bit, and our business, of course, you could say that there was a lot of pent-up demand, and now we're focused forward on building some of the business capability that we had kind of wanted to get to, but had to kind of take a sideline during the financial crisis.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you all so much for agreeing to participate today.